What's up, Josh?
Well, I don't want it to get too serious too quickly. But
Happy birthday.
I want to ask. I want to
make a sign.
I want to ask some questions, and then we can just talk about it. Now, we're going to use this. We're going to use this a little bit for social media, and so there'll be a 15-second, a 30-second, grab here or there. Social media.
Like Tinder and...
Oh. Like your Grindr account, that's social media? Okay. Yes.
Is there really a such thing?
Yeah, that's the thing. Guys like guys.
Why?
The civil is about to get thrown across the room.
Elias, I'm gonna pick on you because you tell the most jokes.
Okay.
Why did you get involved with playing this form of music when you were a young man?
Oh, I was strictly into classical music. My parents played jazz. That was my rebellion. I was a wild child.
Oh, you never revealed this. You never revealed this.
Did you grow up in the 50s?
But my mother came home with a recording of Ray Brown, and I never looked back. As soon as I heard him, I was
How old are you?
How old am I now? Or
No. You're not going to reveal that. How old were you when you heard that?
I don't know. 12 or 13.
Nice. Nice. And that was it. You heard it, and they said, that's the sound.
Yeah.
Nice. Steve, what happened to you?
What happened to you?
How did you end up in such dire circumstances?
Why couldn't you do anything else besides play
What
piano?
happened to you?
Process of elimination.
Milwaukee. Living in Milwaukee.
No.
Where were you? You
Yeah,
were in Milwaukee, right?
A lot of good jazz
Milwaukee.
musicians.
Yeah, Milwaukee,
Talk to us.
Wisconsin. That's how we say it. I was studying piano, mostly classical, similarly. And about middle school, high school, I lucked into a really good teacher in Milwaukee who introduced me to jazz and Barry Harris and Bud Powell, and I heard these things and I was like, I really want to do that because I'm sick of reading music and having to play what is there, and the idea of improvisation, which was so foreign to me at the time, seemed really intriguing. I was like, I want to do that. I don't know what that is, but I like how it sounds and I want to do that.
Awesome. And you were 13, 14?
Yeah, in there somewhere. Yeah.
That
sounds about right.
And then what prompted you ultimately to leave the Milwaukee area and come to New York?
Well, I think anybody who's really serious about pursuing probably any art form, I think New York is always, if it's not a stated destination, it's at least in the back of your head, like, I gotta try this out somewhere. You just want to, if you're really interested in learning more, you want to get into a bigger environment. All the small towns, most of the smaller cities have a scene, but I felt like it was a little limited. And I had a couple friends in New York, and I just wanted to play with more people and be part of a bigger thing and get more from that, learn more from that. So I think it was always a destination. I didn't move out there for school or anything. I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't move out until I was 30. But.
Cool. That's really cool. And Tatum, you did your thing in Seattle, right? And when did you migrate?
I did come out for school. I was like, I graduated high school. I was enrolled at the new school, even early admission, but I came to New York as soon as I possibly could. Yeah.
From Seattle?
From Seattle, yeah. Very exciting.
So you knew that New York was the place you wanted to be from the beginning?
Well, I read somewhere of like all the problems in adulthood I can attribute to making decisions as a teenager or something like that. That like you follow your dreams as an ignorant 13-year-old and then you realize later like, oh, wow, that was a terrible idea. I had made up my mind in 7th grade. I was like, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to go to NYU. I'm going to do all this stuff. I didn't end up at NYU, but I just, yeah. When I was 13, I had already made up my mind. And then by the time I was 18, I sort of followed through with it. But yeah, I sort of had just like a beat on it for better or for worse from a very young age. And
now, you were influenced a lot by what was happening with your parents who were musicians. Your dad was a musician.
My dad's a musician,
right?
Yeah. And actually, before he became a tenor saxophone player, he was a DJ at his college radio station. That was one of his sort of main introductions to the music. And so he has this record collection that I'm now stealing his records every time I go home. But he had this incredible record collection growing up. So that was just the music that was going on in the house. And I sort of I fell in love with jazz before it was ever something that I knew of as. It was just the music that we listened to. It was just that's what was on. When I was 2, my favorite record was an Art Blakey record, and I used to say, "Put on Art Blakey that talks," because on the Ugetsu record, he and there's Pee Wee Marquette at the beginning of it, and then he talks on it, and I love that, and I was a toddler, just like enamored with the music. So by the time I even started learning an instrument, like that was what I learned. I never learned. I had to be forced into learning classical music because it was, like I was like, "No, man, I want to learn Clifford Brown tunes." I was really, really popular.
Did you know that trumpet was going to be your instrument from a young age?
Yes and no. I mean, I kind of had gravitated towards that as a kid. Just like I liked the records with Lee Morgan and Freddie Hubbard and Clifford Brown as a child, and then the trumpet ended up just sort of being an accident of. I don't want to call it fate, but just I had friends that lived down the street that moved away. They were brothers, and the elder brother had played the trumpet. And when they moved, they left the horn with me, knowing that we had musical instruments already around. And so there was just like a trumpet lying around. And
How old were you?
This was right before 4th grade. So when in 4th grade in the Seattle public schools, you could start taking an instrumental lesson. There was like one guy that would go around to 5 different public schools and teach every instrument 1 day a week. So the idea was you can have free lessons at school, and my dad, being a musician, just was like, "You're going to study something. We've got a saxophone and we've got a trumpet. Take your pick." And I was like, "Well, I tried the saxophone and it felt weird. I tried the trumpet and I got a sound out of it, so I stuck with that." And then my friends had moved away, so I had nothing better to do than practice. And then I got good at it, and I like being good because that got me attention. And then I decided to move to New York, and here I am.
Wow, fast forward.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I had almost a similar thing with my mother, which was, when I got into 6th grade, she's like, "Okay, you got to try some music."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I don't want to do that. Like all my friends are in home ec, whatever." She's like, "No, you just got to try it. I don't care if you stick with it." So I was like, "Okay." And she's like, "What do you want to play?" I was like, "Saxophone, clarinet, like my dad." She's like, No, everybody does that." And I was like, I was just picking out all kinds of other instruments. She's like, no. And she told me, she said, "Play the bass. Because even if you suck, you can work."
There you go.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wow. Moms know.
Very
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah, she was right.
Yeah,
very
she's
practical.
a singer. She does.
So were your parents supportive? Everybody's parents really supportive of the music? I mean, I know you were. Your mother encouraged you.
Yeah, my parents were music educators. They were.
It was all good.
Yeah,
It was all
yeah.
good. Okay, yeah. So, my mother was an actress. My dad worked for television. He worked for ABC. And they were supportive of the music, but I didn't really get the encouragement. So I started taking lessons with some local guys, in Queens. And one day the guy says to me, you sound like this guy, Gene Krupa. You know Gene Krupa? And I said, I never heard of Gene Krupa, because I think I was about, 11 years old. And he said, I'll bring you a record the next time. So he brought the record, and I listened to Gene Krupa playing with, Benny Goodman or something. It was the same exact thing that happened. I said, once I heard it, I said, that was it. I want to sound like that guy. I don't know really anything about that guy, but that really sounds great. And the teacher said, well, you sound like him. And I absolutely could not hear how I sounded anything like Gene Krupa. But if he said that I sounded like Gene Krupa, that was good enough for me. And that was it. So I started listening to the big band stuff, and I started listening from Goodman, I went to Basie, and then I went to Woody Herman, and and eventually I started finding, and it just, how that goes, it just goes. So the thing was, I lived in a house with my siblings and my parents, and in all the years I played the drums in the house. Not once did anybody ever come and say, play something for me. And so I've been scarred ever since.
You should have played bass.
Yeah, exactly.
So when we think about the kind of music that we enjoy playing, or why we like playing today, I mean, for me, it's always because it makes me happy, and I like to play stuff that is fun to play and challenging and all the rest of it. When you guys think about playing jazz, what is it that emotionally happens to trigger your desire to continue to play this art form, despite the fact that it is a really, really challenged art form commercially? It's really difficult to make money playing this particular art form. We know about all that, and yet we love it. We continue to play. What is it emotionally that drives the desire to continue playing this art form for you guys?
Groceries. Sorry.
See, I know that that's not the real answer.
He's like,
I know because
he's like, I'm kidding.
when
Not
we've
really.
had when we've had a really tough time, you know, we get on the bandstand and you lean over to me and you say, "In 2 minutes when we're playing, it'll all be good."
Yeah.
It'll all be good. So I know that that's not a legit answer.
No, in all seriousness, I really could never do anything but play this music. You know, in fact, I remember having a conversation with my wife. You know, she didn't really understand how much I loved it, and then I was like, you know, if I didn't do this for a living, I would spend every dime I have to be able to do it. And she just kind of looked at me like, oh, she knew I was crazy then. It was all over.
It's a good thing you do it for a living.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you'd be broke.
Exactly. True that.
I think, I think that at some level, it's like the older you get, the more you become yourself, you know?
Sure.
And so I think it does become more of almost a therapeutic necessity for us to keep playing this music. Whatever drew us to that first time that you heard Ray Brown, or that first time that you heard Gene Krupa, or the first time I heard Freddie Hubbard, it was just like, that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's it, man. That is the life-affirming thing. And you get addicted to it. You want to keep going back to it, because at the end of the day, I mean, you could have a sad, sorry, messed up day. If the gig at the end of the night goes well, you feel all right about it, and vice versa. You can have you could get perfect train karma, find $1,000 on the street. If the gig sucks, you're going to be down about your day.
That's true.
And you know, and the older that we all get, the more I think we could just keep on affirming that, like, as much as other things matter in our lives, this is really at the core of our being, and the challenges of it are welcome challenges. I mean, it's like, you go to like a kung fu master. It's like, why do you spend your life working on your martial arts? Because that's what I have to do. Mm-hmm. And the challenge, the things that are hard, you accept the challenge, and you look forward to them, because it's like, good, I can get good at another thing, and I can get better, and I can continue this thing that is this, you know, a craft and an art form. It's a intellectual and spiritual exercise. I mean, it's sort of like the most encompassing expression of being alive, at least for us.
Dude,
you know,
I'm going to start crying. You better stop, man. This is starting to get very deep. Now, you're teaching at Juilliard now.
Correct.
At Rutgers.
Correct.
You're with how many different groups? Give me the poop.
I do private instruction at Juilliard and Rutgers for just trumpet, jazz trumpet, and then I also am the associate director of the Jazz at Lincoln Center Youth Orchestra, a position I share with the great Ted Nash, and that is, they have 5. There's a Jazz Lincoln Center has a whole bunch of educational institutions within its own institution. They have a middle school jazz academy, and they have a high school jazz academy, and each one of those meets once weekly, one on Saturdays, one on Sundays. And young students from the tri-state area meet at Jazz Lincoln Center and basically have a day of jazz camp with like classes and rehearsals and all kinds of stuff. It goes on throughout the school year. So I teach sort of the top level big band there. Ted Nash and I share that responsibility. So
what kind of charts do you play?
You know, it's a pretty broad swath of stuff. At the moment, we've been focusing, I mean, I don't know when this is going to air, but we've got a concert, as of this filming, we've got a concert tomorrow night opening for the Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra at Bergen Pack. And we've been focusing on stuff from the Essentially Ellington repertoire. It's another one of the Jazz Lincoln Center outreach programs where they focus on the music of Duke Ellington, and then they've added in other composers, but it's part of their big competition, annual competition festival. So, but we've got a Ted Nash original. We've got some Thad Jones stuff in the book. We're bringing some more Thad Jones stuff into the book because Thad Jones. And we've got an expansive list of stuff that we're going to be bringing in to basically try to give the students the challenge and the opportunity to play music from, you know, early Ellington all the way through, you know, composers that are active on the scene right now. So that, you know, they get a lot out of the program and you know, get a broad understanding of what's going on musically, what happened musically, well-rounded educational atmosphere, all that kind of stuff.
And you're also doing Broadway now too, right?
And I'm on a Broadway show.
When do you sleep?
Let's see. Show's in an hour, right?
That's right.
I mean, you know, it's
awesome. This is why you came to New York,
why I
right?
came to New York,
This is what it's all about.
I'm trying to not be one of those musicians that complains about their gigs, because my dance card is full, and I'm very fortunate.
And you get a chance to play also from time to time with the Mingus Band.
I do.
And I know you love playing with those guys, so
I
just
do.
take a minute or two and tell us a little bit about Mingus.
About Mingus or the Mingus Band?
The band.
Well, the Mingus Band itself, it's I mean, one could call it a ghost band in the tradition of, like, you know, the Woody Herman Band is still around even though Woody Herman's gone, and the Count Basie Orchestra is around even though Count Basie's gone, and Duke Ellington Orchestra, blah, 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 blah. But Duke Ellington never had a big band. Excuse me. Duke Ellington had a big band for a really long time. Charles Mingus never had a big band, and he always wanted one. Duke Ellington was his hero.
Is that right?
Yeah. He never had a working big band.
What did he play with, you know,
his
fairly large groups, though?
He would play with fairly large groups, but they were like large, small bands, you know, four-horn, septet, octet types of things.
Right.
There were some large ensemble performances that were put together. There's a famous town hall concert that was put together with kind of a chamber ensemble. There's a studio recording of Let My Children Hear Music, which is a great record on Columbia from sort of the later period, which is like a studio orchestra. But his compositional icon was Duke Ellington, and he always wanted to have a big band, and he never really was able to hold one down or have one, you know, a working big band. He never recorded with a working big band. After he died, the big band became his dream realized from Sue Mingus, his widow. So we play every Monday night at the Jazz Standard. It's exclusively the music of Mingus. It's an amazing experience. The musicians are, you know, all top-notch New York legends. I mean, we've got some people in there that played with Charles. Everybody's individual resume in that band is frightening, and we get together on Mondays and we go to town. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
It's an amazing experience.
That's fantastic. Now, Elias, I know that you started playing with the Dorsey Band out of high school. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I started out with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra. Did a couple of years with them, and then went back to Virginia, and then shortly hooked up with Renee Marie, and I've been working with her for
Been a while now.
quite a long time. And then somewhere in there I got with Freddie, and I've been with him for 12 years as well. So I've had kind of 2 gigs my whole life.
I got a story about Elias. Can I tell a story about
There's
Elias?
plenty of stories about
No.
Elias.
This is a story about Elias the Savior, right?
Go.
I was doing a gig at this now defunct club called the Garage. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah.
I was doing a gig at the Garage. It was a great place. It was on 7th Avenue South, Greenwich Village, and it was one of those places where, like, you know, they took care of you, you know, food and drinks. You get paid a little bit of money. It was a place to play, and they had 2 sets of jazz every night, 7 nights a week, all the time. It was kind of like, you know, neighborhood jazz bar, and I had a gig there, and me trying to save some money as a band leader, I just did it as guitar, drums, and trumpet. And man, we really missed having a bass. I had a great guitar player with me, but like his thing wasn't covering the bass. You know, it just wasn't. He was used to playing with a bass player. He wasn't.
Yeah.
And like out of nowhere, I mean, like God had just like placed this man. Elias just goes walking down the street, and we knew each other from other stuff.
Right.
And he just sort of, like, I think you walked by and saw us playing, and then, like, you went and got your bass and just came and played with, like, he didn't even ask. He just, like, showed up, like, out of nowhere. And it was like, man, the feeling of that, like, you know, every quarter note that Elias plays is good, and it makes you feel amazing. But the quarter note that Elias played, that was the first quarter note that a bass player had played on that entire set. It was just like,
Yes.
like everybody was like, oh, finally, you know. It was like the greatest moment of the year for me. It was like Elias just came out of the heavens with a bass and just laid it down, and the rest of the gig was amazing. I mean, before that it was pretty cool too. But then we had a bass player, and it wasn't just any bass player. Elias Bailey came out of nowhere. I will never forget that moment. It was incredible.
Beautiful. And if it wasn't for you, you wouldn't have gotten Elias to audition for the band.
That's right.
That's true.
And as soon as you auditioned for the band, the auditions were over. And there were so many really upset bassists in that room, and that's really true.
Dozens.
There was one guy in particular. He was so upset. As soon as he saw, he said, "Oh no, Elias Bailey's." And the guy just packed up his stuff, and that was it. He was done. He was absolutely finished. So there you go. Right? No talking except with your fingers.
That's right.
Steve, talk to me about being the guy that's all over New York City. Come on, man.
That's you. That's you.
Wow.
You're all over the place. You play at places that
I'm-
it's like, you know, you're playing there again.
I
You're
mean,
always playing these places.
I do kind of take advantage of the fact that I'm a piano player and I can do lots of different weird gigs in places. I'm kind of always a sideman, of course. But I can be hired by vocalists. I can do duo gigs. I can go play by myself. You know, like, so there's a little versatility built into being a piano player. And I purely freelance, and I work with a lot of different people around town. And I'm not really traveling or doing, like, my lifestyle isn't the same as Elias's in that way. I say that's by choice because I have kids, but you know, it's not like, I mean, you know, but I'm happy with my place in New York. I get to play all over town and yeah,
That's awesome.
play with a whole bunch of different people, which kind of keeps it fresh, you know.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.